Hi, Anish. Hi. We already have so many people who've joined us. Wow, wonderful. 26 people are already viewing us right now. This is the best thing I like about Instagram. Thank you so much, Anish, for joining us. I have also invited our other panelist for today's discussion, Alokananda. Very sweet of you to join us on a Sunday holy weekend. And, I know it's a holiday for everyone, but very nice of you to join. Welcome to Cininfo's Insta Live. We'll just wait one more minute for Aloka to join. I have sent her the invite. I'm just sending it again.
Sure.
I hope all you are able to hear us. It's
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. Great. Uh, I'm just going to try and see if I can add Aloka again. The invite seems to be going. Is unable to join. Don't know. Um, I don't know why this is happening. There. I think there. Hi, Aloka.
Sorry, it
Hi.
was kept spinning when I tried to request back.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I am aware. Insta Live can be a bit tricky once in a while, and I'm going to also try and add a moderator if possible. If not, we'll just start with the session right now. Great. So we already have 36 people who've joined the session, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining our session today. Before I start our session today and tell you all about us. Um, I hope it's visible. Sorry, I just wanted to check if everybody can hear us. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of thumbs up. I hope everyone can hear. Give me a thumbs up if you can. Hi, thank you for the wave. Great. Okay, nice. Hi. Okay, great. Yes, everybody can hear us. So today we are going to talk about the power of collaboration in enhancing projects with dynamic sound design and music composition. But before, हाँ जी हिंदी में बिल्कुल बोलेंगे कोशिश करेंगे हिंदी की गारंटी नहीं ले सकते क्योंकि मेरी हिंदी थोड़ी questionable है हमारी सबकी थोड़ी हिंदी although we have studied in school I have studied Hindi in school but I will try my best थोड़ा माफ कर दीजिए अगर full हिंदी नहीं होता है but before I start to tell you actually a little bit about Cininfo. Cininfo is a platform, it's a tech platform which aims to bring a lot of people from the entertainment and arts and media entertainment field come together, listen to experts like we have today, and to learn from them as to how to, face challenges, understand how to grow, and also be able to share your questions, which can allow you to be able to better develop your career. We also have a few courses which are going on with us as part of workshops. But every Sunday, आज सुबह ही हमने एक session किया with the editor Ninad Khanolkar, and he was talking about the importance of background score, music, how it completely changes the impact of a movie, a particular scene, a particular impact. So it was so exciting, and we mentioned as part of our session कि हम शाम को एक session कर रहे हैं on sound and music, sound design and music composition. So this is like coming together very beautifully. But thank you everyone for joining. So this is what we do at Cininfo. We bring experts to you so that you can actually learn from them. आप उनसे सीख सकते हैं, आप उनसे बता सकते हैं, आप अपने questions बता सकते हैं. So before I move further, I would like to introduce हमारे जो speakers हैं. I would like to introduce our speakers a little bit. To begin with, I'd like to introduce Alokananda. Alokananda Das Gupta. She is a Mumbai-based composer known for her diverse and award-winning work in film and television. Graduating with honors in English literature from St. Xavier's College, she pursued her passion for music in Toronto, earning a Bachelor of Music with honors in theory and composition at the York University. Alokananda's talent led her to score national award-winning Marathi films like Shala and Fandri. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Henry.
Apologies if I haven't.
Yeah.
Right. So she gained gained international recognition for her work on the Netflix series Sacred Games, winning a Filmfare Award for Best Background Music and earning an Emmy nomination. Recently, she was named one of the BAFTA Breakthrough Artists for India, and won 2 Filmfare Awards for her scores in Sacred Games and Jubilee. Welcome, Aloka. It is very, very wonderful and our privilege and our honor to have you today with us on Insta Live.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. Moving to the next, our panelist is Anish John. A little bit about Anish. So, Anish John is a film sound designer and mixer. He won the National Award for Best Sound Design, Best Audiography for the film Labor of Love. He bagged the Best Sound Design Award at the 63rd Filmfare Awards for the film Trapped. He is the sound designer of the acclaimed Netflix series Sacred Games. He was also the production sound mixer for Newton, among other accomplishments. Anish has worked in English, Hindi, Bengali, Tamil, Malayalam, and Marathi films, besides having worked on numerous documentaries and creative advertisements projects. Thank you so much, Anish, for joining. It is really, really a pleasure to have you. We have been getting a lot of inquiries from all our members. We have over 48,000 registered members across various diverse fields. A lot of requirements and inquiries were coming for music composers, for sound design, because it's a very technical, very niche space. और इसमें सीखना किसी एक्सपर्ट को जानना इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर पीपल टू फाइंड तो किनको फॉलो करूं किसका काम देखूं कैसे इनसे सीखूं those are things which even if you bring out the right names the right faculty the right experts it's easy for people to say okay at least I know who to follow so that's the whole effort and intent and attempt over here so, having said this, I would like to start the session today. But before I do that, I'm going to ask some very common questions. Why did you choose sound design? Why did you choose music composition? So, maybe we can start with Anish. Anish, if you can tell us about why did you choose sound design as a career, or it wasn't, and you fell upon it through perchance. So, how did you come about choosing this as part of your career?
Well, basically, I used to dabble in music. Then, when it came to the time of choosing a career, I was like, okay, what can I do? I wasn't good enough to pursue music, so I was thinking what else I can do. Uh, so then I went to film school to learn music recording and production. And then when I went to film school, it just kind of organically drew me towards sound design in movies. And then, yeah, since then it's been that. Yeah, just to put it briefly.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so did you enjoy the whole concept of music from a space where you thought that it would be technical and creative both, and that's why you chose it? Or, as in, how is it that you felt that you would want to study it, work, create a career in this?
No, so honestly, it was just a question of trying to keep myself within that space of being creative and trying to pursue music in some form, if not performing, then maybe recording and producing, uh, because it's much harder to be a performer. So then I kind of organically moved to the studio space where I was trying to record and produce music. And then that kind of led me once I was in the studio, then, you have this whole world of films open up. And then that kind of led me to follow sound design more closely. And then honestly, once you go to film school, then everything is about film, right? Like music just kind of takes a back seat and everything becomes about film. And then uh, you're completely engulfed in that world. And then you try to figure out what else you can do. And that kind of led me to sound design. And then organically it just grew and grew and grew. And then, yeah, since then it's been sound design.
Interesting. And I would like to also I would also like to know that when you went in with you were fascinated with music and then you went to film school and then sound is how is it that you would recommend today's audience to actually today's students or young people to actually pursue their career? What kind of a career start would you recommend if they really should look at this kind of a space?
See, honestly, again, like I think we were talking about it the other day.
Yes.
It is completely driven by what interests you, what kind of holds your attention. So once you're able to identify that, whether that's cinematography or acting or direction or music or whatever it is, once you're able to identify that, or even if you're not able to identify that, if you generally love cinema, then you keep watching films and try and identify what appeals to you. And then once you're sort of you have kind of identified what you want, then you try and find avenues, and like you said, look for people who you can follow and follow their work, and try and see if that's what is the kind of department, so to speak, for you to work in. And then you also have to figure out whether that works for you. Is that something you have an aptitude for? um, so I would say just keep watching films, just keep trying to identify what it is that you find yourself enthusiastically interested in. I think that's the most important aspect of trying to pursue any career, because you could make a very calculated choice. You could say that I want to do this or that, and then down the road you'll feel that, oh, this is not really what I was expecting it to be or hoping it would be, and then you lose focus and you lose interest, and then that won't work out very well. So as long as you're interested and you're motivated, it'll work out, I think.
Interesting. Okay. So, Aloka, I have a similar question for you. Did you choose to build your career in composing music, or was it for the love of films that you found your way to it? What was your route to where you are today?
Well, you see, we come from a background where it's sort of we always pursue further education uh, for it to lead to career. So it was never aimless. But having said that, I didn't have a specific knowledge that it would be film music composition that I'll be doing. I pursued music. I was very lucky to be able to do that. So Anish and I did our graduation together in Kolkata. So I was at a phase where we took we also had films as our electives. So there was also this love for cinema at a very early age. But I didn't know what about music I can pursue because I wasn't a very good performer. And I came from the Western classical background where you had to play really well. But eventually, when I studied, when I took it up, because I wanted to do something in music, I didn't know what it would be. It could have been teaching, it could have been anything else. But I really needed to know where it would lead me. And that's why I pursued it. And eventually, in the process of studying music, is when I realized that I don't have to be a great performer. I can also do this. I can also compose. I can also be, behind and not perform in front of an audience. So all of these developed slowly in the process. But there was always, you could say, there was always a goal to do something in music. I just didn't know what exactly it would be.
Interesting. So already I've got questions for Aloka. Which was the instrument that you chose to learn? Wow, Miss Aloka, I've already started getting questions. Wow. But yeah, if you want to share that, there's already a question out there. Which was the instrument that you chose to learn?
Well, I didn't get to choose. I was made to study the piano from age 5, 4.5, 5.
Wow.
My father, my sister, and I both. So we started with piano. Yeah, so even now that's my instrument. That's my primary instrument.
Okay.
I barely play any other instrument. So this is my primary. Yeah.
Super. Okay, so this is one thing very interesting, I must tell you. So when we started our journey on building this platform, 80% of it was actors. And then we realized, okay, then maybe we should really focus on getting information. But we realized very quickly that whatever content is created, the performers are 10%. The 90% are the people who put it together. And then we started breaking down the kind of categories in which people do actually, manage to create their careers. And the reason why we are doing something like a session on sound design and music composition is because it is one of the two topics which are coming up very often. When we did a session with an editor, it came up. When we did a session with cinematographer, it came up. When we do sessions with directors, when they break down their movies, it comes up because they talk about the score, they talk about it. So The reason we are talking about it today also extensively is because we would like people who are in love with the whole concept of movie making, filmmaking, content making in the audiovisual space, whether it's short films, documentaries, independent films. This is one area, if you know it well, also not just to build your career, but if you know it well, the quality of your product, the quality of your content, it goes up by leaps and bounds. And to know it well is to be able to understand the craft of it. So having said that, I would like to ask, what is the typical workflow for scoring music for an like online TV series? How is it different from the music which you create for maybe films? If you can tell us a little bit about that. Both of you, either one of you can choose to answer.
Anish, please. Yes.
I'll, I'll, I'll tell you from my perspective, from a sound perspective, the volume of work is a lot more when it comes to a series or a show. Um, the timelines are much more stretched out. Like, when it comes to a film, it's 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and you have to kind of figure that portion out. But when it comes to a series, there are several episodes over several hours and maybe seasons, like in the case of certain shows. So you have to kind of make sure that there is continuity, there is a flow throughout all those episodes and seasons. And uh, there is, especially like when you're doing a show and there's season one, season two, there's recall value. Like, I think even with scoring, I think Aloka had to kind of, when we did season two of Sacred Games, a lot of the themes from season one came back. You associate certain tones and melodies to certain characters, so you have to kind of keep that link going when it comes to a show. But when it comes to a film, it's just that, it's a very defined work. So I personally find working on films a lot more exciting. And like, I personally prefer doing films because I think I know exactly what I'm going for. Like, with a show, there are a lot more variables. So I would say it takes a lot more time in kind of executing a show. But when it comes to films, it's like more defined work, and you know exactly what you're going for, and there's an end. With a series, you don't know if there'll be third season, fourth season. You don't know, so it's kind of like it's tougher to kind of navigate when it comes to a show. But that's just my personal take on this. Aloka, what do you think?
No, no, I completely agree. It's definitely the distinction is the amount of work, the volume, like you said. So it's definitely a lot more in series, and it's also a new format that even we were not used to. We also had to. It was our first time sort of handling that world. So that is definitely one of the first things, and secondly, I think it's because of a series, and there are platforms, and there is a domino effect. It's almost like a factory production where one thing depends on the other thing, and everything has to merge together. So there is a lot of coordination. There is a lot of uh, there are there are lots more other than just the creative space that you have to consider. There's a lot of technique. There's a lot of boundaries and limitlessness also there as well. So, like say for me, I would take an episode as a film, as one film in the beginning because I didn't know how else to treat it. And when you're scoring about 7 to 8 episodes, which is 1 hour, so it's like scoring 2.5 films. So, but then for you, it's sort of you have to create a completion in one episode as well as the completion in the full season, as well as the completion in the full series. So there is microcosm within microcosms, it's one within the other. So there has to be many levels of completion in it. Unlike a film, which is just that format, you have to complete that graph. So in that, there is a little bit more complexity for sure. So I agree with Anish in terms of definitely the film space sometimes can be, I mean, not always, but sometimes it could be easier to navigate due to this.
I just want to
And
add, so I think even films are kind of moving into that space a little bit with like lots of sequels and universes happening. So I think that's kind of seeping in into the films as well, where films are getting interlinked and connected to each other, and you have to kind of recreate something from a prequel into this, or so that is kind of merging and changing as well. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah.
So the two mediums actually complement each other, is what I understand. They are able to add to each other's ability to be able to be more, experiment more. Like through OTTs, we are able to experiment more, or for television series, able to experiment more for films and vice versa. So I think the learning itself is quite enormous with the different mediums which are coming up. Now, having said this, does it also apply for does the and this is a question from me because I am definitely not from the field. Maybe it's a stupid question, but does the length of it, like if it's a short film, the music score, the sound design for that, will that be a different, like if it's a short film, if it's the length of the film is not long enough, it's like a 10-minute short film. Does that also impact the way you would design for that film?
I think more than the length, what I kind of look at is in what environment this product is going to be eventually viewed. If it's in a theatrical space, then you kind of approach it a little differently. But if it's a short film or a series and most of the viewing is going to happen on television, then you kind of, so basically, I'm trying not to be too technical here, but we try and limit the bandwidth of the sound design. Like we don't try and have too much low frequency elements, and I don't know if that's something that even Aloka tries to do, or because I know when a lot of that is recreated on television, it won't have the same kind of impact. So we try and find other ways of doing it when it comes to television or short format. But when it comes to a theater, you go all out and you kind of like put in everything, all the bells and whistles. But that's the one difference, the key difference, I would say. But like Aloka said, even if it's short format, we would approach it the same way. Like she said, if you're taking one episode, you think of it as a film and you approach it that way. But yeah, apart from that, I don't think the length makes a massive difference.
Okay. Interesting. And what as in specific musical, technical, and professional qualities are essential to be successful in this domain?
Is that for me?
Yes, please, Alok.
Really.
Please, yes.
Sorry, what technique? Sorry, how do you mean again?
So,
Can you
like
repeat
for
that?
example, what is that specific musical, technical, professional quality that is essential? If you don't have it, I'm so sorry, this is not the space for you. Like apart from really being in love with films, what is it that specifically you need?
Well, I will begin by saying that I'm not really qualified to say it in that way, because as Anish put it, this is it really depends upon person to person. It's very difficult to separate this form of career from life. It's not something that you separate. It merges. The worlds merge. So it's very hard for me to say that this is exactly what you need. I wouldn't know how to advise directly on that. But yes, there are certain templates that one has to fall under, which is, I think, in the case of most careers, I would say. But specifically in music, I would say that getting formal or informal education in it, it's absolutely not a prerequisite. But if you do it, naturally it helps. There are a lot of other things that you're able to do that you wouldn't have been able to do. So had I had that kind of in-depth knowledge in Indian classical music, I would have been able to do a better job of understanding both worlds rather than just Western classical. So, of course, studying something always helps, but it is under no circumstance is it a prerequisite. You don't have to read and write. You don't have to, know all these technical terms or know theory. But loving an instrument, if you are even voice can be your instrument. So having one instrument and having probably some kind of formal technical knowledge would always help out. Um, uh, this is in terms of technique. In terms of career as a whole, holistically, the driving force is passion, and definitely a lot of with passion also comes a lot of discipline. There has to be certain things that you have to follow, certain practices that you have to constantly do. You have to realize that this is not an independent composition zone. This is a film music composition zone. So thereby there is a business side of it. In that I mean that there is a combination of creativity as well as other things which one must be prepared to be able to handle. So, keeping your ears and eyes open, especially ears, listening is something that I would always advise. Constantly listening, and like Anish said, figuring out what groups of people or what genres of the world or what areas of anything in life would you want to be associated with, and thereby pursue. Networking is something that I will never advise in your face because it depends from personality to personality. I couldn't identify with the concept of networking in a general way, so I have personalized it. So I would say that that's also important to personalize your way of networking, figure out who you want to approach, what kind of work you want to do. Uh, uh, I wouldn't term it as internship, but getting some kind of knowledge on the job is also very handy. There is something about studying in a class, and then there's something about learning on the job, because a lot of our industry works on the basis of rules and breaking of the rules. The rules are not applicable to everyone. It's a strange combination of vibe and process, and so learning all of that. The only way to learn that is learning it on the job. So doing learning things on the job, getting an internship done, assisting somebody, um, all of these things, I think, as a whole, as vague as it sounds, I can't be specific, but all of these things, one by one, it builds up and it counts, I think, overall.
So I just
So
want to add, I think when I went to film school, we didn't have a whole lot of other options or avenues. Like if you wanted information, you wanted gear and equipment, you had to go to film school because we were shooting on film. It was very limited access, so there was really no other option. So I don't know if that's a prerequisite anymore because everything is available very freely these days. All you need is your phone to create films, music. You have all the information available on the internet, so you can just like I just want to add to Aloka's point and say that more than doing an internship or training under someone, it's more important to keep doing things. Like just keep at it, so that way you learn more. The more you do, the more you learn. So I think that is one thing that I feel like people today can very easily do. Uh, and you'll get better if you keep doing it, and you'll figure out things on your own. You don't really need someone to keep telling you what to do, unlike earlier where we didn't have access to a whole lot of information. And then I just saw someone asked a question if you need to have music
yes,
knowledge for.
Jai Ho Sinoj has a question on the same. Correct. I was just about to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's not a prerequisite, but it helps a lot. Like it makes a huge difference because when you're collaborating with musicians, if you're able to talk to them in the language they know and understand, and are able to kind of understand what they're telling you, it makes life easier for everybody. And I don't know if that's something that frustration. Aloka and I have worked together a lot, so maybe Aloka has been frustrated by my lack of understanding of music, but definitely it helps a lot if you have a good sense of music.
No, I mean, in that we will have to discuss some personal anecdotes as well, because see, Anish, there is a reason why some things work, and it's not a mystery. It's at all. There are certain reasons why certain things work. This is what I mean by there are. I don't have uh, any technical advice that okay, if you do this, you'll be successful. But yeah, there are certain things which, when they work, some things the product does become something nice. So between Anish and I, there was of course, there is a relationship, there is a camaraderie. Secondly, he is an ardent admirer of music. He's a musician. He plays an instrument. He sings. He performs. He used to do all of that, and he still is constantly engrossed, or he surrounds himself in the world of music. He listens. He probably plays once in a while as well. So it's already he comes from a place where sound and music are not divorced, are not separated. He's already coming from a place where he has a bird's eye view of approaching a soundscape of a film. So naturally, my half the battle is won, because here you have the communication is so much easier, and to have sort of sound knowledge in music obviously helps with sound, because his sensibility in mixing doesn't just come from a technical point of view. It comes from a musical point of view, and then understanding cinema, understanding visuals. So it's multifold. So definitely these are the reasons why some things work. Yeah, that's what I wanted to
Just
point
to
out.
give
Example.
quick example, let's say we are mixing a film or a show, and we want to end music on this particular cut of a particular scene, and then Aloka says, okay, this is where it needs to end. So as a sound designer, I know it needs to end here, but I cannot abruptly cut it off rhythm or off tempo, or what. It has to finish correctly musically as well. So that, at least that kind of basic understanding of music you have to have. Others, it'll cause a lot of frustration for all the people you're kind of working with. So it definitely, if you
Not
if you
just that, Anish, I think it's beyond that, because Sacred Games was one of my first project where a lot had to be done in a short time, and I wasn't used to that. So there were loads of mistakes, and I think he saved my life, because there were loads of these, understanding frequencies, as he pointed out, due to other formats, other visual formats. It's not something that I was prepared to handle. Honestly speaking, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of mediums such as laptops and phones and clashing of frequencies. So a lot of my, I didn't understand score mix well. A lot of my tracks were, like he said, had needed to be put in context, and he did all of that. He did all of that, which is, also a job of a almost like, a composer and a sound designer together. So there is definitely a finer understanding of everything in music, and sound, and scoring to visuals, designing to visuals, that goes in this collaboration, which makes it successful.
I
So
think
definitely.
Aloka is very fortunate that we've had the opportunity of working on these two amazing projects where we worked so closely, and we were able to kind of collaborate so successfully on Sacred Games and Trapped. And uh, so when you watch either of these projects, like when you watch Trapped, you will immediately notice the sound design, and when you watch Sacred Games, you will definitely notice the score and the music. So I feel like it kind of flipped both ways. Like when we working on Trapped, I got a lot of the attention, and then when it came to Sacred Games, rightfully she was able to get all the accolades for it. But I feel like we both complemented each other's work very very well on those two projects, because especially in Trapped, you never know what is music and what is sound design. It's like woven in so beautifully that like there's a lot of music in Trap that gets credited in sound design, and I don't know if that's happened in Sacred Games, but yeah, we've been very fortunate to be able to work on these projects. And I just want to mention Vikram Motwane, who kind of put everything together and guided us to do that as well, was a big help.
So
Yes.
three key points I have understood, and I'd like to reiterate because there are lots of great points. One, you need to love and you have to have a passion for music. Otherwise, this is not going to work. Whether you're performing, whether you're playing, you have to. Formal education helps, definitely helps. But if you don't have it, it is not something which is going to stand in your way, but definitely takes you ahead of the curve. And third is to be able to find great collaborators like the two of you, which will bring out magic. I have a few questions. I'd like to quickly take up the questions before I move up to the next topics. There are a few people like Rohan Jaiswal is asking, there are a lot of people doing this job. So how does one stand out in this space? And another question, just to put out two questions together. Harsh Mishra has a question. He's 18-year-old and becoming a filmmaker. And what advice would you like to give a young, person like him when he's starting to create his film career? So the first one, how to stand out in this space, and how do you, what advice would you give to a young filmmaker?
Aloka?
Um, what advice I can give? One advice is, stick to your sound or signature. Stick to, I mean, basically have one place where you call home. Originality is what I'm getting at, which reflects on your work. which is something that is substantial to be, so people can hold on to. No matter what the waves come in and go and things change, and but if you have something to share, you keep your, you come with a place of familiarity. You discuss, you talk, you write, you score what you know, or what you don't know. But originality is what I'm trying to stress on. Having something that your signature is what I think works a lot.
I think that answers for both of them to stay ahead of the curve, as well as what should you do as a young filmmaker to keep lookout for. Yes, Anish.
I just want to say, like I said earlier, you have to stay interested. You have to keep yourself motivated. Keep watching stuff, and identify is it. Is there a particular genre you like, or what is it that you're excited by? I think that is what will keep you going, and it'll that passion won't die down if you're genuinely into it. If you can identify it. Like I know several of my friends who are horror buffs, just to give you an example. So they keep watching horror films, and they keep trying to think about how to make it better, and how do you come up with new techniques. And so it's just an example. So if you're able to identify something, you don't have to. You could be a general you could have a general interest in cinema, and you might want to pursue different genres, but you have to keep watching and keep yourself interested, and also kind of keep abreast with what is happening, who's doing what, stuff like that.
Okay, I have one question from Ankima Majumdar. How does the portion of method to madness change when you progress in this career? So madness in the sense creativity, from the method of creativity, method to madness is creativity, changed when you progress in this career.
Anish?
I like how Aloka will say Anish, Anish will say Aloka. I like how you're nominating each other for the questions. Please go
Read that.
ahead.
Sorry, can you say that?
Sorry?
Yes, Anish.
What's the question again?
Yeah. So what portion? How does the portion of method to madness, which is method to creativity, change when you progress? So, as in, I think what Akim Majumdar is trying to say, is that how is it that you're moving from method to creativity? Initially, at the beginning of your career, it's all about technique, it's all about the tools, it's all about the method, and eventually you have to be creative. Like Aloka said, you have to create a distinct style, a unique aspect about yourself. So this progress, how do you progress?
So I'm not sure if it follows that trajectory. Like I feel like it's a combination of both. Initially I don't think you're technical at all because you don't know anything. You're trying to figure it out. So all you have is your creativity and your interest, and then you kind of figure it out on along the way. So method to madness, I don't think it follows that trajectory. I feel like you keep following the method that you've figured out or you've learned, and then the madness just kind of happens. I mean, you will find yourself in the middle of a lot of madness when you're trying to work, especially on projects with like timelines and deadlines, and madness happens, and then you look at it in hindsight as madness. At that point, you're just trying to do your work, and you're trying to put the best output out there. So I don't know if it follows that trajectory, so to speak.
Okay, so we have, I have a few questions of mine. I have questions on the screen. I don't know which one to pick, but I will alternate. I want to ask a question of mine. So, to be able to manage the demands of the industry, how do what is it that you should nurture in your abilities, or how to nurture abilities to meet this growing demand? Like, everybody needs to be updated with the kind of technology that is there, with the kind of updates that are there. So what is it that one needs to nurture to stay relevant as part of this very dynamic space? And I will add one more question. Could you please suggest, by Sid Shiron, could you please suggest some resources where I can start studying sound design, like a YouTube channel or something? I think because this question is coming up by many, that where do you think we should start?
Job,
Yeah.
job portals, Cininfo itself is one thing you can start with. Then I think Film Companion has a lot of these, collaborative sessions. So these are all things they can look out for.
Okay. And how do you think they should start? What kind of resources should one build in order to have, to build to learn, to start learning from?
Aluka, you want to take this? one?
I mean, to start learning from, see, it is again not a prerequisite, but it's highly important, or would be very handy to have knowledge of your own, of how to produce music on your own. So create, produce the whole thing. So not just the composition part also, but the transferring of the composition into what it goes out to be finally. Thereby, the aspect of the whole entry of softwares and technical knowledge comes. So, choose your own DAW, choose a kind of DAW that you are comfortable with, start with it. I was kind of thrown with things back then as Nuendo and Fruit Loop and all that, which I had no idea about, but I had no clue. But you spend enough time and you get hooked onto it, and you kind of, I have very limited technical knowledge, but whatever I need to know, I kind of figured that out. So so I think I hope that answers your question.
So, any kind of a recommendation of an institute, a channel, or a medium platform where people can learn with this new composition or sound design?
No, for music composition, I thought, so one of the things what I said is DAWs. Start learning your own. YouTube has so many talks and so many workshops, online workshops, so many all these sort of these podcasts as well. A lot of things are there for you to watch and learn. There's in fact too much information in terms of what specifically to learn. I mean, if you can find out a place that gives what is accessible to you, online class in music composition, film score, then it's great. Again, these are not what is needed. What is needed is what Anish said. You stay in touch with what people do. You stay at the scene of war. Stay there, and you figure what you want. All of these taking courses and classes are great. It'll always help for you to build yourself. So constantly studying and learning and finding. I don't know exactly which classes and which courses. So again, I won't be able to give specific names. Learning an instrument to stick specifically to music, whether or not your life ends up being the career ends up being what you want to be in music or not. Learning an instrument, I think, is almost like a must for voice. Like I said, is also an instrument because you have something to express in. So find out where you can learn. Learn an instrument, try and see what kind of courses that are offered online that you can join. All of these things help. I don't have specific names again, sorry. And also figure out some software, some DAWs, and start working on it. Start making stuff on it. Start composing. Find out people who need. There are lots of people who are making, say, on a master's level, their final films. Their masters, their diploma films. Find those people out and score something for them if you can. So basically, rehearsal, practice, being in the scene, speaking to people, staying in the middle of everything and knowing what's going on is as important as taking courses and classes. So in your own way, you have to figure out your own path there. What kind of balance between official technical learning and learning in your own way through your own way and through the method and through learning on the job. A balance of both, figuring out what works for you.
So I have a question over here which says, how can I identify or build my own music style? So I think you've already answered that by saying that you have to be able to hear more, see more, participate more to be able to finally reach something which is original. But is there anything that you would like to add? Otherwise, I'll move to the next question.
No, there is no answer to that question. That is one question that has no answer, I think. How can you find your own original style? Nobody can tell you that. You're going to have to find it yourself.
Right. Does one's personal style, so this is by Shauridit, does one's personal style influence the music created for cinema?
Of course. Absolutely. That's
Can you
where,
give
again,
an example of any one project? Because a lot of people are saying, can you, deconstruct something or reconstruct or talk about something? I think one person has even mentioned the name of a film. I will just look for it. But if you could just give some example.
Well, Sacred Games, for example, between Anish and I, because that's one of the common things that we've done. So my taste in music and my taste in cinema are if there was a Venn diagram, all of these blend into part of what Sacred Games was. The world that it belongs to, the noirness, the darkness, the so Vikram's ability to want to experiment with new sounds, the kind of music that I listen to, the kind of course what you listen to is what you create subconsciously, consciously, whatever you are absorbing everything that you listen. Of course, I'm not talking about aping, but I'm talking about that's a sound that you've created in your own head your whole life. So everything that I've listened to, from Rahman's work, from Western classical, from trip hops, from all old rock, from electronic things like Massive Attack and Nine Inch Nails and all of these things, Satyajit Ray's scores, all of these things were in my head, and somehow during the experimentation process, all of these blended into one big ball, which belonged to that world of that film. So your taste in music, your taste in cinema, if it matches with the project that you're doing, then it's a match made in heaven. Again, that's the reason why it was successful. Same with, I think, Anish's taste in music, in sound, all of that. I could identify with it when I was scoring it because he could identify with what I was scoring. So it definitely helps.
And there's another question on a movie which talks about, sorry, there's another movie that everybody's talking about, as in how did you construct for it? But let me just look for that question again. Meanwhile, what is the relationship? I would like to understand another department which plays a very, very close relationship with you is the editor's department, because the editor is actually stitching the entire film together, and they believe that they solely believe, and there is this firm belief that the sound, the music, what it does to a certain scene, to a certain emotion, to a certain reaction, it takes it to the next level. What kind of relationship does, if you could just share a little bit about, is there any other department in the film which also pays? I know that the director takes a lot of interest in the sound and music score, because obviously, that kind of takes up the level. What is the kind of collaborations, the different kind of collaborations that you need to have, or you need to be able to build as part of creating the content film?
So I was just going to add to what Aloka said. I mean, apart from your having your own taste guide you, there's also this because we are working in a realm where we are making a film for a certain requirement. Like there is a director, there is a brief, there is his or her personal taste also involved. Like, so the brief that I get from the director has a massive bearing on the kind of sound I go for. Like different projects will have different requirements. So the brief I get from the director is paramount in terms of, like, I need to know what he or she is looking for in terms of what I can finally deliver. So once I understand the brief, then I interpret it in my own way with my own tastes and likes. But I think the brief, or what the director is trying to achieve in a particular scene, or through this transition, or through this film overall, that has a huge bearing. And to answer your question, I think most films get made on the edit, right? The edit table is where the films get made. So everything, pacing, but the flow is kind of created at the edit. And all we are doing with sound design and music and everything is try to aid that and to make it smooth. Like a lot of rough cuts, when you watch them, they'll be kind of like edgy. The reason they're called rough is because they'll have rough edges, and then we kind of try and smoothen that out over time with music transition, with sound transitions. So I think edit is probably one of the most important aspects of filmmaking. So yeah, we work very closely with the editor as well. And then sometimes, and again, like, it's collaborative. Sometimes the editor sets the pace or the rhythm, and sometimes the rhythm comes from the music or the sound design, and then we try to match it the other way around. Like, I know, like, there are lots of sequences in Trapped where we used to follow the score, like Aloka used to set the rhythm for the scene, and then we used to kind of try and match that. Or the sequence is edited in a certain way, and then she scores around that. So it's all very collaborative. Like I feel like edit, director, sound, music, we all kind of try and work together to create that. It's nothing works in isolation, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, of course. It makes complete sense. It's a completely collaborative space, and nobody works in isolation. So I think each one of them is very beautifully dependent on the other, and the interdependence is what actually creates the magic. So absolutely bang on. I have a very interesting question from Janvi Goel. I think I hope it's not too early in your career to ask this question, but Janvi, but she's asking this question: how do you keep going? Like at times, you can also feel demotivated or lack of any creative input in a project. How do you deal with motivation? Because this, so I know a few aspects where motivation is a very important aspect, into self motivation. So music, writing, acting, these three are extremely heavy on the creative. You have to bring in originality, and you have to be very new and genuine and fresh, and then there's various kind of demands and asks. So how do you keep yourself motivated and to keep putting out the creative outputs in it for every project?
I think keeping yourself motivated in our particular industry, personally speaking for myself, is is uh, is as important as oxygen is to life. In this particular
Yes. Said.
field, or what I am particularly doing, if the backdrop or if the foundation is not of excitement and passion towards something abstract, not concrete. Concrete is the project that you're working on. Abstract is your satisfaction with the process, with the music that you're creating. If each time, in whatever way, in some projects you're not associated, you're not really attached emotionally. Some projects you're highly detached. Some projects you're woven intrinsically. Whatever it may be, your relation with that project may be. If the backdrop is not of passion or interest and excitement, then there is nothing after that. So finding motivation, again, I'm not at all qualified. It's a life question. It's a complete life question. So I can only say that you have to find your own way of constantly finding motivation and constantly finding motivated in your for yourself. It need not be for the success of what you're doing. Easier said than done, because we all have that goal. But if you can somehow convert that and add a little bit of self satisfaction in it as well, that okay, what I'm doing is also sort of fun. You have to fake it to tell yourself all the time. Whatever it may be, you have to figure out your own way of coming up with motivation. It's highly urgent, I must say.
I think it's
Anything from you, Anish? Yes.
staying relevant. Like, whatever you do, your motivation is to stay relevant. And there's so much diversity out there. So if you're going to be closed and you're going to think that, okay, this is all I'm going to do, then you'll stop learning. So there's so much to learn from. Like, even if you're doing a project that initially isn't exciting for you, if you start committing yourself to that process, there's so much to learn. Like, you very often, you might be working on projects that you you don't kind of not, I mean, not agree with. In this, it's a tough choice of words, but sometimes it's not according to your taste, and it's not going in the direction that you had initially imagined or whatever. But you got to see, there's so much diversity out there. That's like so many movies and shows being made that don't exactly follow your taste. So if you're able to keep abreast with everything, there's so much to learn from even different people, the choices they make. So I think that is fair enough motivation to keep going. Like, you can learn so much from just doing and practicing, like we've been talking. Just keep at it. If you're getting an opportunity, that itself is a great motivator, right? You're getting to work. That's, I think, the greatest motivation of all, that people want to work with you. If they're reaching out and seeking you out, that's a great motivator. So if you can keep that going and have that drive you, then I think that'll work out well. That's what I feel.
I agree with both of you. Actually, if if you it's like a startup's dream, like, and I think for you every project is like a startup's dream. But it kind of, because it tests you that will this be successful, will this be successful. That's the one thing which a startup asks. And it's the journey. If you really enjoy building that product, then the journey is so much fun that irrespective of the outcome, you've actually loved the part of it. I'd like to add something which Anay Om Goswami, who's the cinematographer, he mentioned that when we asked on this question that how do you keep yourself motivated, he said that, many a times movies do the way they do. But if you have done your part well, and people come and tell you, the movie may have not done well, but really enjoyed the way you have approached the project, the way you have. So, uh, how honest can you be to everything that you put out there? That in itself should be your motivation. Don't always focus on the outcome of it. And I completely agree with both of you on this. So moving to the next question, and I think we are almost 1 hour into the session. We'll try and take up just about a few more questions. A question from Siddharth Satish is that my question is for both the guests. What was the process for designing the soundscape for Trapped? How much of sampling the apartment and the objects the character interacts was done? Should I read out again?
Yes, please.
Yes. The question is for both the guests. What was the process for designing the soundscape for Trapped? How much of sampling the apartment and the objects the character interacts with was done?
Oh, Anish, you should take that for sure.
No, so I think Trapped is a very unique kind of example because we like, again, I have to keep saying that I'm very thankful to Vikram that we got this opportunity of working on this film where it had so much scope, like, and it's all down to his vision, and he had kind of imagined it a certain way, and then while working on it, one idea leads to the other, and we kind of ended up doing that a lot, like we were thinking, how do we most effectively convey the chaos in this character's mind, or how do we show the kind of journey that he's going through. So then the what we came up with eventually was, we thought of using the sounds of the space that he's occupying. Within that, we take that, we use that in the sound design, we use that in the music, and Aloka did it beautifully. And again, like, I got a lot of credit for that wrongly, because people thought that was sound design, but it was actually, a lot of it was music. But because they were using real sounds, like the pans and the pots that he was banging, and we kind of Aloka beautifully treated that, made it musical, and gave it rhythm, and it all fit very beautifully. But again, that's thanks to Vikram also for imagining it that way. I just kind of ended up executing both their vision. So I feel like, yeah, Trapped was a very unique opportunity in that sense, that because of the setting of that film, we were able to do that. Again, I have to mention that because there was a lot of there was lack of dialogue in that film. The character's not talking a whole lot, so that frees up a lot of space for the sound design to kind of flourish. There's a lot of bandwidth available when you remove spoken word and you remove dialogue. You have everybody's listening to what's happening. So that kind of the Trapped was one of those films which gave us the opportunity to do that. So people are listening to the sound design, they're listening to the score, rather than just paying attention to what is being spoken and try to get information from that. So in that sense, again, Trapped was a very unique film, and we were able to do that a lot, use a lot of the samples that we recorded on location in Foley, and then Aloka kind of threaded all that together and put it in beautifully in music.
Yes,
Absolutely on point with you with that. Yes, Aloka.
I would like to add for Trapped that it was something that again worked a lot, because it was one of the projects where everything came together. It was, because of Vikram, I think the collaboration was also very, very good. There was Nitin Baid, and he had a great sense of music also when he's putting it, reference music. Also, the world of Trapped is something that I could identify with. In Bombay, I'm very affected by noise, and I work from home. So I also recorded some of these noises that used to bother me, construction noises from where I was living. So it was something. Here is because we are talking textbook. Here is something which is a textbook example of of everything, of the tick boxes working. Because trap was a word that I could identify with, thereby the sound of the word I can identify with, coming from inside the word trap, and the idea of sound and how sound and music is driving the narrative. The story is driving the narrative, but because of lack of dialogues, the sound and music is also driving the narrative. And the I love that film a lot, and I think it was done so beautifully that it helped the merging, the collaboration of music and sound even more. To be able to, I had my H4 digital Zoom field recorder with which I would, record water drops and all of these, and they were all really bad quality. I didn't know how to treat them, but sort of all of these were experimental. That Anish is always there to kind of fix all my mistakes. So yeah, it's a good example of a collaborative project where editing, the story, direction, especially direction, I would say, all of these things come together. Sound, music, and a right kind of story, which sound and music the world can identify with. It's familiar to them. So it's one of those things that happened with that.
There was a very important question out there for you, which asked how much music knowledge should a director have to, or how much do you expect a director to know that can. I mean, how much do you expect from the people you're collaborating with?
Interesting question. So I always say that the director does not. No one has to know musical jargon. You don't have to talk shop with me. I mean, it's. I don't talk shop either. It is absolutely the expression of emotion, and I think as a director, you also can be in a place where you don't know. You don't always have to know. We have been very lucky to work with directors like Vikram, who know, at least if he doesn't know what he wants, he'll know what he doesn't want. And he's got extreme clarity and extreme knowledge of the use of music. So we have been a little pampered, or I have been a little pampered by his knowledge. That he can tell that this is a scratch, this would be recorded later, this would be added. He can tell, he understands all of that this doesn't work here, but an element of this will work there. So having a director who understands the use of music, the extensive use of sound, score, the way it is, and not just, it also comes from the whole background. We can go back to the topic of the use of background score, or the importance of it in Indian cinema. It wasn't there for a very long time. So then to have somebody who shares your idea about how background score and sound should be used always helps. More than technical jargon and lingo and all of that, it is the understanding of how the of score and sound is used in film I think is very important. Expression of emotion. I had I was working with Nagraj Manjulian for a fantastic film called Fandry. My Hindi was poor at that time. He didn't speak English. I didn't speak Marathi. So our communication, we didn't even have a lot of language, but it just instantly worked. First, if you are able to identify with the images, I'm a motion. Of course, I also create independent music, and I also can create music without a visual reference. But since I'm in the business of visual and audio visual media, thereby if you can identify, if the director is giving you the moving images that can grasp you, again, that's half the job done. So he didn't have to tell me anything. We just understood by through expressing emotions, expressing narratives, expressing what they want. So these are the skills that I think, or I wouldn't say skills, but these are the things that are always useful in a collaboration with director. No, they don't have to know a lot of knowledge, or they don't have to have a lot of knowledge in this. Yeah.
They should essentially know what they're trying to create, like what emotion are you trying to evoke in the audience, and brief you according to that, and then kind of try and generate that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. They should be able to. I cannot. These are not things that you can put in boxes. There are loads of directors who don't know what they want as well. Of course, it creates a lot of confusion. But then, if you are able to, like I said, arrive at the place together through the process, that also works. There are loads of things that don't work, which is having none of these, and not being able to know what you want, or not being able to know what you don't want, not being able to know what it is that you're seeking in your entire collaboration. All of these things will not work. But some of what I said if you have somebody who can again guide you, like Vikram also does a lot of interesting spotting for you. We worked in Trap where when Nitin had used music in reference to certain parts. So all of these things are very, very useful. Like basically, the more the person is in tune with how it is that the music and the visuals are supposed to merge, the better it is for you.
Okay, I would like to put out a fan shout out for you, Aloka. Debashish would like to say Alokananda made me a fan right when I watched BA Pass, which was underappreciated. Right since then, she has kept on delivering, and alongside names like Hildur, she's an inspiration to many. So I thought I'll just put it out because he's said it like 4 times. I have to put it out there. And the next one I have is from Jasmine Singh. Your work in Half Widow and Sebastian and Rose was quite different, but still it had a signature to it. Could you tell that it's Alokananda Das Gupta by just listening to it? What brings that signature? Interesting question.
There is a bit of, I believe, again, interesting question. Thank you for the question. I think I don't know what the signature is, but there is choice of instruments. I'm very, very fond of the instruments such as cello. I write for the cello instead of writing for the piano. Then there is elements such as if I say it would be interpreted as black or white, but it's not black or white. But there is an element of melancholy in both of these projects, which is musically, poetically, again, I can identify with. So I think these are the things that are some of the things that build up to building a signature sound, instrumentation, zone, feeling, emotion, sometimes choice of a major or a minor key, which I've used a lot of minor key in Sebastian and I Half Widow, I think, as well. Both of them. Half Widow was there was a lot of conflict in the film. So yes, I think all of these together create signature sound.
So Jasmine also has another question. The follow-up second question to it is, how important do you think is the role of a mentor in the artist's creative journey?
Role of a mentor in an artist's creative journey is well, I think it's a huge role, uh, because if you are lucky to be mentored, that's again, I mean, I have already talked about training in music. I have already talked about how it's not a prerequisite, but then there is the other side of it, which is uh, there are loads of life skills that you receive in training. So I have received mentorship from my teachers in the past, in a way that a lot of things that they have said are directly coming in use in my career. So in this regard, holistically, mentorship is I think it's great if you have that. You have to choose the way you want to seek that mentorship, what kind of mentorship you're seeking. But of course, if you're lucky enough to have that, it's great.
Okay, I have a few other questions from, I've just jotted it down separately. Um, how can anybody approach you for an internship opportunity? Both
Oh,
of you,
just
questions.
well, internship opportunity. I don't know. I think just reach out to me. That's all.
Okay, and I have one last question. After that, I'd like to come back to mine because I have just about a few more questions.
So I need
You've made
to say reach out to him.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we are going to, so we have shared your Instagram details with all our viewers. We would also like to know if there is an email address that you prefer to receive interest from, then we will share the same as part of both the community as well as on our Instagram so that everybody can freely access. And of course, I would like to also tell everyone, please don't expect answers immediately. Please do give our speakers some time to come back and answer to you because they get a lot of inquiries as such. So we will share details, but do have patience on the response. The influence of Western classical music on composition. This is Aloka for you. What role did it play, and did you feel that you needed, like you mentioned, that Indian classical would have been a better, would have also added to your area? But what is the role that Western classical music played on your influence in creating the kind of scores that you've created?
It was everything for me. It was everything because I started learning that. It started from a place of fear. I used to fear the world. I used to fear studying piano. I used to, like everybody thinks classical music is boring, it's heavy, it's orchestral, it's lots of things. A lot of, not everybody, a lot of people, or at least from where I came from back then, a lot of people thought that. So I was very lucky that I broke my own bias in it. Initially, there was a lot of resentment towards my father about why am I forced into this because it's a very rigorous, it's obviously like any other field of music and discipline, quite rigorous. But I was lucky enough to discover it myself that this is magic. This is the sort of the math of universe, the language of universe is math. I found the language for me is this. It is in the instrumentation, it's in the writing, it's in the extensive amount of mad genius from the past that I feel like a lot of it can't be repeated. It's a streak of genius that has happened there in the creation and the melody, the science, the math behind it. I feel like everything that there is need to know for me, even in an electronic zone, even in an esoteric, even in a very dystopian zone right now, where everything is sort of, there's very, very little romanticism in work at times, and there is a lot of technique and method. Even in all of those, whatever world you might call it, I find the teachings of Western classical fall under that. Just like literature would, what you studied in as a child, a poem or a novel helps you. So I think Western classical helped me create, think, helped me understand the importance of melody, helped me understand the importance of harmony, helped me understand the importance of understanding an instrument. I actually didn't understand piano. I was very intimidated even now by it. But I could identify with the cello far more. So it helped me create a sound through which I want to write or say a statement. It kind of added everything to me. So I think it helped. It is what I do. Along with everything that I've listened to as a child, all the Bengali music, all the Beatles, and everything else. This is also huge, the maximum part of the influence that I have. And had I studied Indian classical, of course, it would have been such an amazing help. Of course, it always would have been a great help.
Super. I have one more question and then we can start wrapping up the session. We have a question from Naveen Shashi. The question is Asha Jaur Majhe. How, Anish sir, you connect with this project? How do you connect with this project? If you can talk a little bit about that.
I think it's just a beautiful film. It's a stunning film. I fell in love with it the first time I watched it, and I was again very, very fortunate to be able to work on it. I mean, it's a great film. I just have extremely nice things to say about the film and the director. He's a genius. Aditya Vikram Sen Gupta. He's a good friend of both of us. Um, it's a beautiful, beautiful film. If you haven't watched it, please go and watch it. I'm not sure where exactly it is available now. Maybe on Prime. But yeah, it's a stunning, stunning film. It's experimental. It's trying to do things that people haven't done before. So it's trying to break new ground. It was again, it gave me a lot of opportunity to do a lot of things that I don't normally get to do. Again, because of Aditya's vision, and he was very clear what he was going for. We were able to achieve a lot of those things. So yeah, I just love that movie. If you haven't watched it, please watch it.
Great. That's actually a good recommendation. Our last bit from both of you. Films that everybody should watch who is trying to build their career in this space. Definitely, like, give me like top three from both of you, like top three books and top three films. Yeah, let's do this because everybody wants to know
I'm
what is it that you love.
I'm terrible at putting on the spot. I forget everything. Anish, go ahead.
No, same here. I mean, it's very hard to do.
Okay,
I don't.
I'll take a question. We can circle back to it, but it's definitely out there. This is like a prime question. We have a question again from Jasmine. Dorian is one scale that you have worked quite in your arrangements. What makes you reach on to choice of scales in your composition? Technical
I'm
question
going
out
to
there.
question for now. It's I don't think I want to get into that. It's very technical. But coming back to the original question, Anish, go ahead.
No, so again, I don't have like it's very hard for me to give recommendations, but I generally don't recommend a whole lot of books on sound design because most of it is just like sound designers venting and being bitter about the field and not being able to do what they want to do and stuff like that. So I don't recommend a lot of books, but yeah, I would say just watch films and find what appeals to you, what you like. For example, like I got drawn into like say Tarkovsky or Coen brothers, the way they use their sound, that really appealed to me. So if you're able to find stuff like that, and and honestly, like even in India right now, there's so many people doing so many interesting things, and it's so diverse right now. It's very tough to even keep up with all the stuff that's being put out there right now. So just keep watching what you can. Invest a lot of your time. I know it's a lot of time, but put in what you can, find what appeals to you, find what kind of style appeals to you, and try and learn more about that or get better at that. And you have all this information available on the internet, Google, YouTube, like Aloka was saying, and just seek out what you want. It's all out there. You just need to dive in and honestly just like, and you can find, like when I was trying to study cinema, we didn't have access to so many films. You had to wait for a festival, or you had to wait for a screening in the in a festival or something like that to be able to watch classics. Or I had to go to film school and have access to the National Film Archive, and that's how I was able to watch these films. But now you can literally just Google it, or go on Movie or something, and you can watch everything. So right from classics to contemporary stuff. So just keep watching stuff, find what you like, and follow that, rather than trying to, if you heard from someone that, oh, this is a great genre, you try to like influence yourself with that. I don't know how organic that will be and how long it'll last. So develop your own taste and try and find what you like, so it'll be it'll have more longevity in that sense.
Very true. Aloka, over to you. You had enough time to think.
I don't have time, but again, it's very hard for me every time this question is asked. But I would say what I did. I studied it in a way that I watched a lot of films which are classic examples of a director and composer's collaboration. It's happened historically, from Hitchcock to right now with Nolan. So there's a lot of collaboration with Morricone and certain directors, and all of these collaborations where it has worked. Why it has worked, I have watched them. So you have some classic examples. You have certain off the beat examples that you will discover when you watch these films. So I have done that. I think Ray's use of score in India has been one of the finest. So because if watching it is always going to benefit you. Even if you're not going to do something about anything with cinema and music, you should still watch it. But his use of music in his, especially not just the his first film, not the first big film, but the other things where he was scoring other films. So interesting use of music there. I would suggest watching those, watching collaboration, watching musicals. Again, a different genre, but again, how West Side Story kinds of films like that. Dreams by Kurosawa was one of the films that I watched at a very early age, where I didn't even understand it, but I understood sound and music then. I understood the unusual way sound and music is used, the importance of silence. The use. I also search for sound like compilation. I love the way people compile soundtrack, or if a certain there are certain Western classical pieces like say Maurice Ravel's Bolero that's used in many films, and Rashomon as well. You select films like that. Where do, like right now if you type and everything will appear. We're talking like real grandmothers now, that you guys have everything. So, but no, but if you can even figure out your own library and own way of studying. I mean, I was never into studying about music and picking up a book to study about that. But then again, reading certain things, again, you cannot separate poetry from music, all of that. So reading certain poems from from our course, from Eliot, and all of these things always has helped me with reading poetry, reading patterns, reading different pentameters, scansions. All of this helps in singing, singer songwriting, watching biographies, watching documentaries on classical composition, watching documentaries on unusual composers. One of this is the recent Get Back on Beatles. I've always been a fan of Beatles, only to realize how little I know about them after I watched the documentary and realized how educational it is to see it before you unfold. Right now, there's this book called Mark Lanigan Sing Backwards and Leap. I have it right here. I've been very bad in reading, but it's about a biography of a composer called Mark Lanigan. So again, you find what speaks to you when you pick up that book, you pick up that piece of films of cinema. But these are some that come. Recently, I watched Banshees of Inisherin recently a year ago. I loved it. I found that the poetry of the film so inspiring. The fodder lasted. I'm still using that as my inspiration to create and to watch. All of these things I feel you must. Breaking Bad and all of these are the things that have set standards of today's of the pattern of narrative of platforms. All of these things are must watch, I feel, to gain more knowledge.
Even
So
a film like
yeah, please, Anish.
Zone of Interest, it shows you what you can achieve. If you use. So like I keep telling this to everyone. I feel like you have tools in cinema, right? You have tools of filmmaking. You have sound. You have music. You have visuals. You have actors. You have costume. So these are like fingers in your palm, and if you choose to not use one of them, you're just handicapping yourself. You kind of like you're making yourself less effective. So if you want to see the potential of what, say, sound can do to a film, and how can you convey an idea or an emotion through sound, you can watch a film like Zone of Interest, and you can see what they're trying to do with sound design. They could have very easily had we could see what was happening. You could see the gas chambers, and they can show you the horror visually, but they did it in such a more in such a subtle way, and it has this like impact on you, and you don't even realize it. So it's a new way of doing it as well. So if you want to like explore different ways of achieving something, you have all these tools available to you. And like I keep saying, at the risk of sounding like a grandmother, there is a lot of information out there. Now the challenge is, how do you sift through all this? How do you identify? It's a whole lot. Like, I find it very overwhelming. There's too much content out there. I don't even like get around to watching the stuff that I even want to watch. But that is the challenge now. How do you sift through all this and identify what you like watching, and how do you find that?
Agree, completely agree. And these are some very valid, relevant, and easy to apply recommendations. Sorry, because this is a space where you just can't imitate someone. You are constantly looking at building your own, and you're expected to bring in something very different from someone else who has created. So while the director is trying to bring in originality, the same is expected of you. The director is bringing in a great amount of creative aspect, so is expected of you. So I think constantly keeping yourself updated with all kinds of content and all kinds of creative aspects. Like, for example, I am not a part of the film industry. I'm not even I don't play an instrument either. Sorry, my parents tried their best. They failed miserably. But I do know that when I watch Christopher Nolan movies, somewhere the score, the background score, the music elevates that that film. Whether it's a Batman I watch, or an Interstellar, or Oppenheimer, all of them had music play probably the largest role. Like, the entire aspect of how I was able to appreciate the movie was because of the sound and the music, and it was amazing. And that's what that's what I now, just to wrap up today's session. It's been an hour and a half, and I know, Aloka, you had to go somewhere, so we will wrap up. We are wrapping up. We're done. But thank you so much for doing this, because this is our intent. This is the objective of what we are trying to do. The initiative, the movement that we have, is thought leaders like yourself. The I would like to say the evangelists who are out there, whom you should follow. Google has done that, created phenomenal evangelists whom you follow if you want to really be great in space of software development. We are trying to do this for the entertainment industry. There are a few very genuine, amazing names, amazing experts out there whom if you follow, whom if you listen to, if you keep watching out for what they are creating, you will be able to stay relevant, ahead of the curve. And that's how we see you. We see you not just as experts, we see you as thought leaders in this space. And bringing you out, and getting, I know that this Instagram live is going to be there on our Instagram page for everyone to watch. Come back and watch it again. So this helps a lot of members to learn, understand, and gain insights, which allows them to build for, whether they are directly working in this space or they are working as contemporary as in this space. Whether you're an editor, director, cinematographer, how is it that you should now look at sound? And if you're an early career or mid-career person, how should you think about incorporating the suggestions given today? That has been my major achievement for today evening. And once again, thank you so much. If both of you can tell us a little bit about what do you think about our initiative, any kind of feedback that you believe we should do, we should definitely incorporate. More than happy to hear from you. But just last few words about Cininfo as a platform, what we are trying to do, because a lot of people join us every week, every Sunday. We've actually crossed 50 Sundays in the past 1 year. And we've not missed a single, unless, like, of course, there's been a match or there's been a holiday. But we've been staying steady, bringing experts who are very unique in their space, for our members, for everyone, freely, who wants to build their career within India as well as internationally. So thank you once again. But if you could just tell us a few words about what you feel that our platform is doing, and if we can do something more, if we can make it better in some way.
First of all, thank you for having us, and thank you for providing this platform for everyone to kind of explore and learn more. And it's a great initiative, and I think just keep at it. It's great. I hope everybody's benefiting from all this information that we're trying to share. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, they can reach out, and I'll be more than happy to kind of try and address that. So again, congratulations and thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Anish.
Thank
Yes, Aloka.
no, and I was just saying thank you as well. I completely agree with Anish. Thank you for having us. And of course, it's a great initiative. Anything that you do to teach, to impart any kind of insight is always great. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. And just so that I wrap up by saying a wonderful Holi, happening tomorrow. I hope you enjoy yourself. Hope you guys are not working, because I know a lot of people. I liked what Ninad today said, that he got to know it was Holi when a certain staff member said, "Sir, can I take a leave tomorrow?" So all of you are so busy with your projects, with such immersive careers you have, that you completely don't remember what is the world out there. But just to tell you, there is Holi tomorrow. I really hope that you have a wonderful Holi, and thank you for giving us your Sunday evening, and helping many students, many career aspirants, for the industry, to gain very valuable and applicable insights from you. So thank you once again. I
Thank
hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Aloka. Thank you, Anish. Lovely having you as part of today's
You,
session. Thank you.
you.
everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.